Perhaps it's been a long time since we've truly slept. We close our eyes, yes, but the mind keeps wandering through unfinished thoughts, lingering worries, and the nameless voices that whisper inside our heads. But here, at Lucid Dream, Sleep and Science, Stories, everything slows down. Not to forget, but to remember that peace itself is a form of wisdom. In the gentle dark, we listen to stories woven from the science of sleep, from the silence of the mind, and from those quiet moments when people find themselves again in the soft breath of the night. There are no lessons here, no formulas for a better life, just moments of sharing, as if we were sitting together by a warm, dim light, talking about the things that made us smile, or made our hearts sink a little, because sometimes what we need isn't someone to say everything will be fine, but just a voice that softly reminds us, you've done enough for today, and if you're here, think of this as a small sanctuary, place where you can take a deep breath, release your shoulders, and let your mind rest gently within these quiet stories. Welcome to Lucid Dream, Sleep and Science Story, where every night is a journey back to yourself. Have you ever wondered why, even when your body is tired, your mind refuses to stop? Thoughts keep rolling in like waves meeting the shore, one after another. You lie there in the dark while the world sleeps, and it's just you. And the soft noise inside your head. Sleep, it sounds simple, yet it remains one of the deepest mysteries of the human mind. Scientists call it the mind's nightly reset, the most elegant self-balancing mechanism the brain ever invented. But to reach that reset, we must let go. Let go of thought. Let go of control. Let go of even the effort to sleep. And that is what modern life has made so hard to do. We live in an age of light and signals, where every moment is filled with notifications, memories, or small anxieties. The brain, born to listen to the silence of the night, is now stretched thin by the frequencies of the day. So when night falls, we don't truly enter sleep. We simply move from the noise outside to the noise within. But perhaps night doesn't come for us to silence every voice. It comes so that we might hear ourselves more clearly. In the stillness of the room, as the breath slows down, you begin to notice some truths only reveal themselves when we stop running. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look. Maybe sleep is that moment, when we look within, not to find answers, but to touch the ancient silence we've long forgotten, and in that silence, everything inside begins to soften. The body, cell by cell, quietly says, it's okay now. Let me take care of the rest." In this stillness, where thoughts fade like smoke, you are getting closer to real sleep. Not just the act of closing your eyes, but the journey inward. When the last light fades and your head rests upon the pillow, something miraculous begins. The brain starts to clean itself. Not metaphorically, literally. The glial cells, the brain's night guards, quietly sweep away the neural waste built up after a long day of thinking, worrying, analyzing. Sleep, in the most literal sense, is the brain's most delicate purification ritual. As we dream, the hippocampus, the keeper of short-term memory, begins to decide what stays and what fades. The moments that made our hearts race, the feelings that weighed us down, are placed upon the scale. transformed into lasting memories or dissolved like morning mist. Our body knows this. We've simply forgotten how to trust it. Night, the heartbeat slows, blood pressure drops, and melatonin spreads like a biological whisper, saying it's time to rest. This isn't weakness, it's a sacred ritual of restoration written into our blood and nerves. Seneca once wrote, "Every night, when I go to bed, I remind myself that I may not wake up, and in doing so, I am reborn every morning." Science calls it the circadian rhythm, the great turning of life's inner clock. But Seneca saw something more, a quiet rebirth each night. Every sleep is a small death, and every waking a return cleansed. So when you lie down, don't think you're merely sleeping. You are handing back control to your body, letting it do the work only the night is silent enough to allow. Healing. All you have to do is not stand in its way. In that slowing breath, something unseen is happening. Life, quietly rearranging itself. There are nights when we wake without remembering our dreams. Only a faint trace, like dew left upon the skin, a vague feeling that somewhere we've just returned from another world. For thousands of years, dreams have been humanity's most secret doorway. Freud called it the royal road to the unconscious. But long before Freud, our ancestors already knew, through instinct, that dreams are the soul's way of whispering to itself. We dream to understand what daylight drowns out. We dream to rearrange the things our hearts never had time to say. We dream to live the moments we never dared to touch while awake. In deep sleep, the brain doesn't stop. Billions of neurons flash in short cycles, creating hazy films we call dreams. But don't think it's just random sparks. Each dream carries its own subtle message. When we dream of being lost, it may not be fear, it may be the mind saying, we've wandered too far from ourselves. When we dream of falling, it may not be terror, but a quiet reminder to let go, that not everything we cling to is meant to stay. Dreams speak their own language, not with words, nor logic, but through images, feelings, and symbols of the soul. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We sleep to rest, but perhaps also to remember the parts of us that daylight forgets." Maybe he understood, deeper than any philosopher, that in sleep the soul returns home, where the limits of reason fade, and we can touch what we could never reach while awake. Modern science calls this REM sleep, the stage when our eyes move rapidly beneath the lids, when the brain lights up like day while the body lies perfectly still. In that moment, we live between two worlds, one physical and quiet, one spiritual and burning bright, and perhaps that's what lucid dream truly means. To realize you're dreaming and still be able to choose your path within it. It sounds mystical, yet it's a phenomenon measured by EEG. Lucid dreamers, those who awaken within their dreams, show a faint activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for awareness and self-reflection. In other words, they dream and know they're dreaming. A state between real and unreal, between body and spirit, between reason and soul. Perhaps that too is the metaphor of being human. We are all daylight dreamers, living, breathing, working. But only when we close our eyes do we truly see who we are. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." When we look outward, we see the world. When we look inward, we see ourselves. In its deepest sense, a dream isn't what happens when we sleep. It's the soul's awakening while the body rests. Some fear dreams for their chaos, but it is their honesty that makes them sacred. No morals, no filters, no reasons, only pure emotion we hide by day. Some dream of flying, some dream of the dead. Some dream of places they've never been, yet feel like home for 100 years. Science may call it random neural activation, but the heart knows. Nothing inside us is truly random. Dreams are how the mind tells its own stories, to remind us that everything we've ever lived still lives within us. And when you wake, if a fragment of dream still lingers, don't rush to forget it. Just sit quietly, listen to its fading echo like the end of a song, because perhaps that is the final conversation between you and the deepest part of yourself. So tonight, if you fall asleep and dream, remember, no dream's always meaningless, only unheard. And sometimes learning to listen to your dreams is how we finally learn to understand ourselves when there are no more words left to say. Have you ever opened your eyes after a dream? And in those first few seconds, you can't tell what was real and what was dream. The room is still the same room, the light the same as any other morning, but something in your chest hasn't quite returned. That is the most fragile moment of the day, when the dream world and the waking world haven't yet separated. Part of your mind remains over there, where anything can happen, where the limits of reality haven't yet been rebuilt. Dreams dissolve quickly, but the feelings from them cling. Science calls this dream residue, the afterimage of a dream. It doesn't only live in memory, but in the body's biochemistry. Hormones, heart rate, brain waves. If you're frightened in a dream, the body truly responds with adrenaline. If you laugh in a dream, the brain still releases dopamine. If you embrace someone in a dream, the body actually feels calm. So a dream is not merely a mind's illusion. It is a real biological experience. Only it happens inside. Some say, dreams fade when we wake. But in truth, we never fully wake. A part of us always remains in old dreams, and every morning when we open our eyes, we carry fragments of the night, a feeling, an image, sometimes a nameless sadness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Perhaps he meant that our soul is also stained by the dreams we keep. Even if we forget them, they still shape how we feel the world, like an invisible mist that cloaks everything we touch. Scientists have experimented. People awakened immediately after a dream often recall vivid dream details, but those allowed a few more minutes of sleep tend to move that dream into long-term emotional memory. That means you might forget the scene, but you keep the feeling. Dreams don't vanish. They change form. One morning, you wake feeling peaceful for no clear reason. Another day you feel unsteady, though everything around you is fine. Maybe an old dream just brushed your heart and vanished as if it had never been. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Perhaps he spoke not only of waking worries, but of dreams that wound us. Dreams that leave the heart aching even after the eyes are open. Yet within imagination we can also find our deepest comfort. For the mind cannot always tell the difference between memory and imagined image. What you dream is, to the brain, as real as what you lived. And perhaps the gentle dreams you once had are the mind's own remedy, written when it knows you need a place to shelter. Dreams do not end when dawn arrives. They simply change clothes, from image to feeling, from story to mood, from fear to reminder, and maybe the miracle is not what we remember, but how we let those dreams alter us. A beautiful dream doesn't end when we open our eyes. It continues as a day lived better. This morning, when the first light slipped through the window, you opened your eyes, took a deep breath, and in that brief moment, everything seemed a little clearer. Waking is not just a bodily act, but a ritual of the mind. A ritual we perform daily, rarely noticing its meaning. When you open your eyes, billions of neurons fire together. Light passes through the retina, sending signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a tiny region of the brain called the conductor of the biological clock. It signals the whole body. The day has begun. Melatonin, the night hormone, withdraws. Cortisol, the waking hormone, rises. Heart rate lifts slightly, breath deepens, and every cell in you quietly shifts from sleep to live. It sounds biological, but it is a daily miracle, a small rebirth we often forget to be grateful for. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Simple and yet capable of silencing us with recognition. Each morning is a gift, and the mere fact that we can open our eyes to see the world is a miracle we've become too used to. When we truly wake, we do not only see the room, the light, or the birds outside. We see ourselves, people who have endured so much to reach this morning. We have passed countless dark nights, countless fears, endless anxieties, many near surrenders, and somehow, without always knowing it, we still choose to wake, to keep living, to keep trusting. Awakening is not always a thunderclap. It can be a deep inhale, a moment when you realize you are still here. Many imagine awakening as a brilliant epiphany, but often it is simply ordinary seconds when you stop long enough to notice something you once skimmed past. Perhaps a drop on a leaf, a ray through the curtain, or the quiet in your chest as you sit before the dawn. This is when leftover dreams blend into real life, and reality acquires a hint of dream. Seneca once said, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Those words call us to wakefulness, that we need not wait for a special moment to begin living. Each morning, each time we open our eyes, is already a new life. To wake is to realize you don't have to change everything. You only need to be truly present in this moment, and everything shifts. Let the morning light touch your skin. Don't reach for your phone. Don't rush to check the world. Lie still for a few seconds. Listen to your heart, and remember, you get to begin again. Dreams aren't necessarily over when you open your eyes. They're simply transforming, from the dusk of night to the light of day, and perhaps this very moment, while you listen to these words, is when you truly wake. Have you noticed that each morning the world wakes faster than the heart? Phones light up, notifications chime, the sound of the day rushes in like a wave. In minutes, the fragile peace you had upon opening your eyes is swept away like a dream you didn't have time to remember. We live in an era that honors speed over stillness. Everyone hurries. Eat quickly, work quickly, love quickly, forget quickly. Yet those who keep a little slowness can see what the rest of the world misses. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can a person find a more peaceful retreat than in their own soul. There is no place more peaceful than your own mind. But to hear it, you must slow your pace. After you wake, Give yourself 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of doing nothing. No messages, no scrolling, no rushing through your to-do list. Simply sit, hear your breath, feel the warmth of light on your skin. To recognize you are still here, still alive. This is not laziness, this is rebirth. Sleep helps the body recover, but the quiet after waking helps the mind heal. Neuroscientists call the early morning a transition state, a period when the brain is still adjusting between dream and reality. If we throw ourselves into the machine too soon, the brain will be jolted, like an engine forced to accelerate before it's warmed. But if we grant ourselves a few moments to slow down, alpha brain waves associated with creativity and calm will persist, allowing the mind to be awake without strain. That is why people who meditate in the morning often have gentler days, and why those who live slowly rarely lose themselves. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We do not live too briefly. We only drop the small moments of peace as they pass." So each morning treat slowness not as luxury, but as a duty to your own soul. Drink water. Watch the light spread across the window. Place your hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, "Today, I will not let the world make me hurry." That is all. No elaborate ritual needed. No forced striving to be still. Only the remembering that peace is already inside you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the coast, or in the hills. There is nowhere that a person can find a more peaceful retreat than in their own mind." Perhaps last night's sleep was a small, inward retreat, and this morning is an opportunity to carry that quiet back into the world. When you step outside, bring with you a piece of the night, a little silence, a little gentleness, a small remembrance that the beautiful things must be lived at the pace of the breath. Night taught us how to listen. Now the day will teach us how to live without dropping what we just learned from our dreams. There are days when all you can hear is yourself. Not the sound of traffic, not the chatter of others, but the noise of your own mind, a private clamor no one else can hear. And yet more exhausting than any outside conversation, it's when you sit still, and inside your head 100 unfinished dialogues keep running. The what-ifs, the if-onlys, the should-haves, the I ought-tos, repeat like a song stuck on endless loop. We think we're thinking, but most of the time we're simply listening to the echoes of worry. Science has a name for this, the default mode network. A neural web that turns on when we do nothing, when the mind wanders between past and future, rarely staying in the present. It's what lets us daydream, imagine, and reflect, but it's also why we get swept away by relentless thought. The quieter the outside, the louder it becomes inside. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Simple, yet profound. When the quality of thought declines, our mind becomes a room full of echoes. Each negative idea hits the walls of awareness and returns amplified. That's why even in silence we can feel tired. There's a truth both neuroscience and philosophy agree on. The mind was not built to stand still. It moves constantly. Movement that once kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern world, where danger rarely comes from a beast in the dark and more often from an unanswered email, an unfinished deadline, an unopened message, the brain still reacts as if threatened. Cortisol spills, the heart races, and what once kept us alive now wears us down. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." 2,000 years ago, he predicted our age's illness. When our mind is everywhere, in texts, in others' expectations, in plans not yet begun, we lose the one place that matters, the now. The world inside the head isn't bad. It's simply too loud when we forget how to listen. Like an orchestra without a conductor, each thought competes to be heard first. So instead of harmony, there is cacophony. But if we sit down, take a deep breath, and only observe, no judgment, no interference, those sounds will begin to recede. Not because we force them silent, but because we stop feeding them the energy to stay loud. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. A gentle reminder that what we can truly govern is not the world, but how our mind responds to it. The world out there may be noisy, but peace has never lived outside. It's a skill and an art of living. An art born not of escape, but of standing still amid the waves. In the rush of life, try sitting down and asking yourself one small question. When was the last time I was truly quiet? You might realize silence was never something to seek, because it has always been waiting, just for you to stop long enough to hear it. We often think that to quiet the mind, we must stop thinking. But that's like asking the ocean to stop having waves. Thinking is the mind's nature. It moves to react, remember, and protect. The problem isn't the waves, it's our urge to control them. Notice this. The harder you try not to think, the more you think. The more you push a thought away, the tighter it clings, like a child afraid of being forgotten. Calm doesn't come from eliminating thought, but from ceasing to argue with it. When you sit still and close your eyes, at first you hear only chaos. Fragments of memory, worry, plans tangled together. But if you simply observe, no reaction, no fixing, no judging, those thoughts will dissolve like smoke before the wind. Science calls this meta-awareness, the ability to watch what unfolds in your own mind. People with this skill still think like anyone else, but they know they are thinking. They become the observer, not the one being pulled along. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Those words cut between two layers of experience, you and what you are experiencing. The moment you see, "I am not my emotion," freedom begins. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many times have we hurt not from what happened, but from the story our mind keeps telling about it? A phrase from someone to another, a sound, becomes to us a wound, a memory, a fear. We think we live in the present, but often we live inside a reflection of the present created by our minds. Observing without intervening may seem passive, yet it is the greatest power of an awake person. Because when we observe, we transform, not by force, but by understanding. Imagine the mind as the sky. Thoughts are merely clouds. Some days the clouds are light and slow. Some days storms rise, but the sky remain wide, still, never gone. When we identify with the clouds, life feels turbulent. When we remember we are the sky, everything becomes temporary motion. Some spend a lifetime seeking peace, but peace isn't where thoughts are absent. It's the moment we stop being the clouds. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. That line rings like a bell. Each time we forget, it tolls. You are not your thoughts. So if your mind is noisy today, don't try to chase it away. Sit down, watch it, let it speak all it needs to say, then smile. The strange thing is, when listened to without judgment, even the mind learns to soften amid the noisy world. The most peaceful thing is not perfect silence, but the ability to hear the noise without letting it shake you. Seneca once said, "No man was ever wise by chance." Wisdom doesn't come from avoiding thought, but from understanding how thoughts arise and pass. Perhaps peace is not thinking less, but knowing you can think freely and still be at rest. There's a curious thing. The harder we try to be peaceful, the more elusive it becomes, because trying itself is a kind of resistance, like stirring the surface of a pond to make it smooth. The more you stir, the more ripples. Only when you stop does the water calm. The mind is the same. It doesn't need to be forced quiet. It simply needs to be left alone. After long, exhausting days, we scramble for liberation, music, outings, work, meditation. But sometimes what we truly need is a single moment of doing nothing, not trying to understand ourselves, not trying to be better, not trying to get through, just being present. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Now is the time to get serious about living your ideals. How long can you afford to put off who you really want to be?" Maybe the seriousness he meant is not action, but the courage to stop, to pause and see the things we always rushed past, including ourselves. If you sit long enough, the layers of noise begin to fall. Like dust in a sunbeam, they don't disappear, they settle, and suddenly you realize there is nothing to push away. Thoughts, feelings, fears all flow like a river, and you sit on its bank. No longer swimming within it, no longer fighting, just watching and letting it pass. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. You cannot find peace if you think of it as a place to arrive at. Peace is not a destination. It is the natural state that arises when you stop seeking. Neuroscientists call this neural settling, a kind of brain stability that comes when we stop reacting. Alpha waves, heart rate, breath, and hormones gently realign. The body doesn't need instructions to be still. It knows. It only waits until you stop intervening. And when we stop resisting ourselves, something small happens. A truth anyone who has truly been still knows. No more I should, no more I must. No urge to control. Only presence, light as breath. And in that breath, everything returns to its place. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." Peace does not mean there are no waves. It means the waves beat on and you remain, not proud, not strained, just standing, because you know you are the rock, not the wave. Many think peace is the reward after a long journey, but actually, peace is the journey itself. Each breath, each glance, each slow step, if we are subtle enough, is an invitation to return. Return to ourselves. Return to the inner place where nothing needs proving. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Perhaps the noises, the clashes, the sleepless nights are not errors, but part of the refining. They reveal who we are and what in us still shines when everything else fades. And then, after it all, we realize peace need not be manufactured. It only needs permission to appear, like when we stop speaking and finally hear the wind that has always been there. Night comes, we sleep in peace. Morning comes, we wake in peace. And through the day, we live in peace, no matter how loud the world becomes. Because peace is not outside. It breathes in every moment of who we are. There is something no one teaches, yet everyone knows well, the feeling of fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of not being enough, fear of not being loved, fear that tomorrow will be worse than today. Fear is not loud. It does not always arrive as screams or tears. Sometimes it is just a quiet sigh in the night, or a hollow feeling you can't name. We tend to think of fear as the enemy, but if you listen long enough, you'll see it never truly wants to harm you. Fear is simply the mind's way of saying, pay attention, something important is here. As a child, we feared the dark. As adults, we still fear, but that darkness is no longer the room outside. It lives inside the mind. We switch the lights on bright, turn the music up loud, fill our lives with relationships, work, social feeds, just so we don't have to hear the whispering fear within. But the brighter the light, the clearer the dark becomes when you close your eyes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. Fear does not come from the thing itself, but from how we interpret it. We do not fear the dark, we fear the stories we imagine inside that dark. Like in a dream, fear is the tale the mind tells itself. And sometimes we believe that tale so completely, we forget we are the author. Neuroscientists say, when we are afraid, the amygdala, the brain's primitive survival center, lights up before reason has a chance to respond. It signals the heart to race, the breath to shallow, prepares the body to fight or flee. So fear is real, not only as emotion, but down to the cells of the body. The problem is we no longer fear real tigers, we fear the thought of the tiger, and the brain cannot tell the difference. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. We hurt ourselves with imagination." How many nights have you lain still with nothing happening, yet your heart pounds because the mind paints the worst-case scene? Fear needs no reason. It only requires a crack in your calm, and it slips in very softly, very truly. But there is a truth few recognize. Fear only holds power when we run from it. The more we flee, the more it chases. The more we face it, the smaller it becomes. Like darkness, it cannot survive when you carry even a small light. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Perhaps the greatest terror is not the thing we fear, but living an entire life in fear without ever truly living. Fear does not vanish. It only changes form. At every life stage, it shows up with a new face. As a child, fear of abandonment. As an adult, fear of failure. As an elder, fear of being forgotten. But if we dare to sit down and ask, what are you trying to protect me from? We will see that behind each fear is a trembling weakness asking to be held. And maybe true peace is not the end of fear, but the ability to take fear by the hand and walk on in the quiet of the night. Fear is no longer a stranger, but an old friend knocking at the door, reminding us that we still feel, we are still alive, and there remains something to love. When we stop running, fear stops chasing. It simply stands there silent, as if waiting to be heard, because sometimes fear only wants to be acknowledged. We are used to extinguishing fear with phrases like, "It's okay," "Don't be afraid," "Be strong." But deep down, fear does not need denial. It needs an embrace, a gentle look that says, "Yes, I see you. I know you're here." When you are afraid, don't rush to resist. Ask, "What are you trying to protect me from?" This small question can crack open the wall between fear and understanding. Behind fear, there is always a good intention. When you fear failure, perhaps your mind is simply trying to keep you safe. When you fear being hurt, it reminds you that you once were. When you fear losing someone, it says you once loved deeply. Fear is evidence that you have lived fully. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity." If you need a witness, be your own. Maybe the greatest fear is not failure, but not being seen. We search for external eyes to validate us, and forget that the one witness who truly matters is within. Psychologists call the practice of talking with fear integration practice, a method of integrating emotions. Instead of chasing away negative feelings, we invite them to the table, pour them a cup of tea, and ask, "Why have you come?" The miracle is, when fear is listened to, it softens. Seneca once said, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." Fear does not disappear by bravado. It dissipates by understanding. True courage is not the absence of fear, but knowing fear and walking forward anyway. When we speak with fear, we do not try to banish it. We ask what it needs. Like speaking to a crying child, we cannot command, "Don't cry." We can only sit down and ask, "Where does it hurt?" And like that child, fear does not want reason. It wants gentleness and to be heard. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. What happens to you does not define you. How you choose to see it, that is everything." And when you regard fear with curiosity rather than judgment, you will find it less frightening than before. Perhaps fear is like an old, anxious friend. It repeats the same story because it worries you won't listen. But when we truly listen, it will smile and quietly sit beside us without needing to shout. Seneca once said, "There is no enjoying the possession of anything valuable unless one has someone to share it with." Maybe fear exists to remind us we are not alone in this life. For if we never feared, we might never learn how to truly connect with others. When you are afraid, try placing your hand on your chest. Feel the heartbeat like an ancient drum echoing from far away. It does not beat from fear. It beats because you are alive. Sometimes the bravest thing is not to be fearless, but to hold a conversation with your fear in kindness, and then you will see fear is no longer a closed door, but a threshold to understanding. Perhaps fear was never something to be overcome. It is a small lamp in the dark, showing you where inside you still needs understanding, still needs love. Where there is fear, there was once a wound not yet healed, and within that wound, a very real part of you waits to be seen. We grow up told, "Be strong so you won't be afraid." But perhaps true strength is having the courage to be afraid. For only by daring to fear do we dare to live. Those who feel no fear are not necessarily free. They may simply have shut their hearts to feeling. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." And maybe one of the most lasting echoes of a human life is how we meet fear. Not by fleeing, but by listening and walking with it. When we dare to look at fear, we can notice a strange thing. Fear always points to what we love most. We fear losing because we once loved. We fear failure because we once dreamed. We fear loneliness because we once believed in connection. Look deeply enough and fear is not darkness, but a light temporarily covered. Psychologists call this integration through awareness. We do not remove the fearful part, but bring it back into the wholeness of the self. When what we fear is no longer pushed away, it becomes part of our strength. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Challenges and fears do not come to punish us, but to expand the soul's capacity. Without long nights, we would never know how tender the dawn can be. When we walk with fear, we begin to hear something new, the voice of courage. Courage does not shout or wear armor. It is a small inner voice that says, though afraid, I will go. Not because we are sure of victory, but because fear does not mean we are wrong. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If fear reflects what you love, then courage reflects what you believe. And it is that belief that turns fear into a compass, guiding you toward where the soul wishes to go. Remember, fear has one aim: to keep you alive. It is doing its job, sometimes clumsily, sometimes overly so, but always with protective intent. When you thank fear instead of cursing it, you begin to move through it rather than be held captive by it. Seneca once said, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." The future is always unclear. No one truly knows what will come. But that may be the beauty of life. We do not know, and yet we open our hearts. When you understand fear, you need not banish it. Simply smile, step forward gently and say, "Thank you, I hear you now. Let us go together." And wonderfully, when you do, fear stops guarding the gate and becomes a guide. Perhaps fear does not arrive to stop you, but to ensure when you walk, you do so with awareness, and at the moment you dare to step, though your heart still trembles, though your balance still wavers, you are freer than ever. Not because fear has gone, but because it no longer decides your path. Peace is not the absence of fear. It is this, to be afraid and still proceed, for within every fear there hides a light waiting for you to reach it. There are nights when we cannot sleep, not because the present is too loud, but because the past refuses to be still. Memories we thought were old, yet at the sound of a song, a scent, or a name that flashes by, they come back to life, so quietly, so vividly, like someone knocking in a dream, and when you open the door, you find yourself, years younger, standing there. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The present moment is all that we have to live. The past and the future are but dreams, but sometimes those dreams refuse to leave. The past clings to us like mist. We think it has dissolved, but at a night's chill it reappears. Not because we are weak, but because the human mind is made to remember. Memory is how the brain stores unfinished emotion. Whenever we suppress something, a part of that feeling becomes frozen in the nervous system, waiting for a moment of softness to melt, to be seen again, to let the unspoken continue. Neuroscientists call this an emotional recall loop. Happens when the brain replays an old memory, not to punish us, but to heal what remains incomplete. So if the past returns at night, don't ask yourself, why haven't I forgotten? Gently ask instead, what part of me wants to be understood again? Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Perhaps to truly begin, we must learn to close something with gratitude, not to forget, but to recognize that it once had a reason to exist, and that reason is now complete. The past does not disappear. It only changes roles, from guide to observer. Things we once judged as mistakes may, years later, turn out to be the turning points that taught us who we are. Those we once blamed, we now see were only souls learning to love within their limits." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Time is a river, a violent current of events, glimpsed once and already carried past us, and another follows and is gone. Time is a river, and we, the ones who stand on the bank, watching moments pass, carrying all the weights that once made our hearts heavy. We cannot swim upstream to change the flow, but we can sit quietly, and look at that water with gentleness. There are things in the past we haven't forgiven, for others or for ourselves, and those unforgivings make our nights heavy. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Forgiveness means we stop throwing stones into our own heart. Seneca once said, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." Life doesn't wait for our explanations. It simply continues, and we either keep being pulled back into the past or choose to step out of it with gratitude. When the past knocks tonight, don't try to silence it. Listen to it like an old song. Know that every note in it is part of the story that made you who you are today. You may not wish to listen forever, but you need not regret having listened. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Perhaps what once hurt us is the road we had to travel to grow deeper. And sometimes, simply understanding that is enough to still the heart. So tonight, if the past knocks, open the door. Not to relive it, but to say softly, "Thank you. I remember. But I have moved farther now. There are things we think we've forgotten, but the body has not. It remembers. It remembers in the way your breath shortens at a familiar voice, in the slight clench in your chest when someone's name is mentioned, in how you avoid a street, a song, a smell, not because you mean to, but because the body keeps its own memory. Neuroscientists call this somatic memory, the body's memory. When we go through a strongly emotional event, the sympathetic nervous system records the full reaction, heart rate, hormones, breath, muscle tension, as if to file, "If this happens again, here's how to survive." But life is not always real danger. Some pains are no longer present, only traces remain. And those traces are stored not in logical memory, but in cells, in muscle tissue, in reflex. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Yes, but sometimes that imagination is not only in the head, it lives in the body, where each cell continues to behave as if yesterday's battle is still being fought. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And perhaps the body is also stained by what the mind once feared, a shock, a word, a memory. All leave a pale streak inside us. When we cannot let go of the past, sometimes it's not because the mind clings, but because the body hasn't yet learned that the danger is gone. The body is the later partner in healing. It needs time to relearn. Now it's safe. Therapists call this process recalibration, rebalancing. When we breathe deeply, sleep well, move slowly, the body receives new signals that the threat is over. Gradually, memories stuck in cells melt like ice in the sun. So don't hurry to blame yourself for still hurting, for trembling, for remembering. It is not weakness. It is that part of your body still on guard, still doing its ancient job of keeping you safe. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Perhaps the body's ache is not because it is frail, but because it has been brave too long. The fatigue, recurring dreams, the unaccounted sighs, these are not mere exhaustion, but signs that healing has begun. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But perhaps, if he lived in our age, he would add another line, "And through the mind, you can teach the body to be free again." See your body as a loyal friend, one that carried the heaviest memories so you could keep living. It does not need to be forced to forget. It needs to be heard, thanked, and allowed to rest. One day you will notice when deep breaths return, when you can hear an old song without the chest tightening, when you walk past a place that once frightened you and feel calm, that is when the body knows it has been forgiven. Not just by someone else, but by you. The past will remain, like a painting hanging in the room of memory. But now you do not look at it with tears, but with gratitude. For without that painting, there would be no you of today. Someone learning to live lighter and sleep peacefully in their own breath. Once we thought letting go meant forgetting, but then we grew up and we understood. Letting go is not erasing, but stopping the resistance to what has happened. The past does not need to be deleted. It only needs to be set down. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." Perhaps that is his way of speaking about the art of reconciliation. Not resignation, but acceptance with love. For only when we love fully what once hurt us does that pain cease to terrorize us. Letting go is not sending it away, but allowing yourself to go. No longer stuck in memory, no longer demanding justice, no longer seeking why. Because sometimes the answer is not in reason, but in the calm after we stop asking. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free," and the bravest act may be the courage to let go. For we cannot fly if we keep the stones of the past in our hands. When we learn to forgive, we do not say that was right. We only say, I no longer want to carry this. Forgiveness does not change what happened, but it changes the one who carries the memory. Psychologists call this closure, the closing of an emotional loop. It happens when the mind accepts that the past cannot be remade, and the body recognizes the present is safe. We do not need an apology to be at peace. Only a nod from ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Loss is not an end, it is transformation." Everything we once had, loved or let go, still exists somewhere within us, only reshaped as memory, lesson, gentleness. Letting go may be the quietest act, yet the most powerful a human can do. For to let go, we must trust that we will be okay without holding on. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Perhaps the past is heavy not because of what it carries, but because we bring it everywhere. But when we choose to stop, time stops with us. And we realize we have lost nothing. We have only returned. When you truly let go, the past stops being a wound and becomes an old story you can tell without crying. And in that moment you understand that healing is not returning to what was, but becoming a version of yourself who can smile at what once made you cry. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Perhaps time does not heal, but distance allows us to see things from another angle. And when perspective shifts, the pain changes color. Take a deep breath, feel your body. How many years, how many memories, how many falls it has carried, and yet it is still here. Still living, still breathing, still learning to love again, though once broken. Letting go is not forgetting old people or old stories, but being grateful they were there. For without them, you would not know how strong you can be or how gentle. Tonight, if memory knocks again, smile and whisper, "Thank you. I do not forget you, but I have learned to live on." Peace is not that memories disappear, but that they remain, and we no longer fear touching them. There are nights when you lie still, the phone turned off, everyone else asleep, and you hear a very small sound, not from the world outside, but rising from within. Loneliness. It is not loud, but loud enough that you cannot ignore it. No one truly wants to hear loneliness because it touches the deepest part of us. The part that fears being left behind, the part that still needs to be seen. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions, than your own soul." Yet when we are truly alone, that soul is not always as peaceful as he described. It can feel cramped, full of echoes, and at times more terrifying than the noise of the world. Loneliness does not come when we have no one. It arrives when we have lost connection with ourselves. In this world, we can chat to thousands of people and still not speak to the one person inside our head, ourselves. When everything quiets, we begin to hear the questions we avoid by day. Who am I? Where am I going? Does anyone really understand me? These questions do not need immediate answers. They only need to be allowed to exist. And sometimes that is what scares us. Scientists have said the human brain fears prolonged silence. When external stimulation disappears, the default mode network, the mind's wandering network, activates, and our thoughts replay memories, wounds, and things left unsaid. That is why many people fear being alone. Not because loneliness is bad, but because being alone forces us to face truths we have not yet seen. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." How many years do we spend fleeing the quiet, mistaking loneliness for lack? But in truth, loneliness is an invitation to return. Loneliness is not emptiness. It is the space the soul requires to breathe. If one day we never stop, the mind will begin to collapse in silence. If we stop long enough, loneliness ceases to be an abyss and becomes a calm room where we can hear our own heartbeat again. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look. Perhaps loneliness is the call to that source of strength. It compels us, even once, to look at what we have been avoiding. Not to judge, but to understand. Not to hurt, but to touch. Loneliness, when quiet enough, begins to change form. It is no longer darkness, but the first light of awareness. Because only when stripped of outside noise can we hear our true voice." Seneca once wrote, "We are waves of the same sea, leaves of the same tree, flowers of the same garden, and perhaps to feel that connection, we must first know ourselves as a single leaf. We must touch loneliness to realize we are not separate, only learning to return to our own rhythm. Loneliness does not come to take from us. It comes to give us back to ourselves. If you hear these words in the night and feel lonely, know this. It is not a sign of lack, but a signal that you are truly alive. Only souls that still feel can know what loneliness means. When we stop trying to chase it away, loneliness becomes different. It is no longer a cold echo, but a space, wide, deep, and so calm you can hear yourself living. Sitting with loneliness is not easy. Silence is a mirror that tells no lies. All the things we once hid, every unhealed shard, will appear when we are no longer busy avoiding them. But that is also when we begin to truly meet ourselves again. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Perhaps the power he spoke of is not controlling the world, but the ability to sit still within your own world. When you can sit with loneliness without feeling diminished, you begin to understand peace is not lack, it is enough. A study of the brain found that when people are alone, activity in the insula, the emotional sensing center, increases. That area helps us know ourselves more deeply, but only when we are not distracted by the noise outside. This means loneliness is not just an emotional state, but a biological mechanism for self-awareness. Seneca once said, "No man was ever wise by chance. No one becomes wise without nights spent alone." Wisdom does not arise from others' voices, but from silences long enough to hear your own. Sitting with loneliness is not endurance. It is an invitation to share a seat. Imagine loneliness as an old guest, standing outside the door for a long time, waiting for you to say, "Come in." When you invite it, it brings not sorrow, but honesty. When you sit with loneliness, you no longer want to fill it with films, music, or messages. You only want to breathe softly and realize there is nothing to fill. Loneliness does not demand filling. It demands being seen. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it." Loneliness does not hurt because it exists. It hurts because we judge it as wrong. When we stop judging, loneliness becomes a gentle companion. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free, and the bravest are those who can sit alone." No noise, no need for eyes on them, no need to prove anything. Just presence. That's all, sitting with loneliness. We begin to hear things we cannot hear while the world is loud, the heartbeat, the breath touching the chest, the quiet voice urging, "Slow down a little." Loneliness teaches what no one else can, that self-love is not praising oneself, but staying with yourself, even when no one else will. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Loneliness can be an obstacle, but if we move through it calmly, it becomes the path. When night comes, instead of covering it with light, turn off the lamp and simply sit there, not to meditate, not to calm down, but simply to be present. Breath in, breath out. Loneliness sits beside you, no longer a threat, just quiet and there. Because sometimes what we need is not to escape loneliness, but to stay long enough to realize it was never against us. It only reminds us that even when there is no one beside us, we still have ourselves. One day, you suddenly realized loneliness no longer frightens you. The room is the same, the clock ticks slowly, but inside you there is a different feeling. Not emptiness, but openness. And within that openness, something quietly begins to bloom. Awakeness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look." Loneliness, when met with courage to look within, is no longer an abyss, but a well, a place where your strength always waits, ready for you to peer down. People often expect awakening to be a brilliant moment, a sudden flash, a dramatic seeing that changes everything forever. But no, awakening usually arrives very gently. It is not loud or dazzling. It is a deep, quiet breath in the middle of the night, a moment when you say, "So, there is nothing to fear anymore." Scientists call this awareness integration, the unifying of perception. When the mind stops separating "I am lonely" from "loneliness is me," the brain forms new connections between the emotional center, amygdala, and the reflective center, prefrontal cortex. This means when we view loneliness with understanding, the brain no longer reacts with fear, but with calm. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Loneliness brings us back to the present. When there is nothing outside to cling to, we learn that this moment is enough. No past to regret, no future to fear, just you and your breath. Perhaps loneliness is the first teacher of presence. For only when there is no one else to speak to, do you hear your own whisper, "I am still here." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Loneliness does not create suffering. How we think about loneliness determines whether we drown or rise. If you see loneliness as punishment, it becomes a prison. If you see loneliness as opportunity, it becomes a temple of awareness. Seneca once wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." When you are truly alone, you learn that each day is a new life. No need for someone to confirm you exist, just accept your presence. Loneliness, at its deepest, is a door to meeting the soul. Not the religious soul, but the deepest, truest, brightest part of a person. A part you can only see when all other noises fall silent. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Loneliness teaches this. Instead of asking, "How do I stop being lonely?" you begin to live like someone who does not need to fill their loneliness. You realize completeness does not come from another, but from how fully you are present with yourself. Loneliness, in the end, turns out not to be darkness, but a gentle light only the truly peaceful can see. It does not drag you down. It draws you home, back to the quiet you once lost in a world too loud. Seneca once wrote, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." Perhaps the mind fears loneliness because it fears stopping. But when we stop, we find we were never truly alone. For in every silence there is always you as the quiet observer and the quiet lover. Loneliness, when lived long enough, becomes the most beautiful companion. Because when you learn to be with it, you no longer need to seek peace elsewhere. Peace is already here, in each slow breath, each gentle moment, in the way you look back at yourself. And then, loneliness ceases to be fear and becomes awakening. There are nights when we think we have been fully extinguished, like a candle burned down to the last wax, leaving only a thin wisp of smoke and a faint scent of something scorched on the breeze. And then, from somewhere very far away, a small light touches us again. Very weak, very thin, but enough for us to see that our hands are still here. It is not a miracle, it is trust. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Perhaps in long black days, faith is the first color the soul chooses to begin again. Not blind faith, not the belief that everything will be fine, but the quiet conviction that even if things are not fine, we will be okay. True trust does not arrive when life is gentle. It comes when we hit bottom and still decide to lift our head. It is a small decision to get up one more day, to take one more breath, to smile lightly even without a cause. Trust doesn't need to be grand. It only needs the choice to stay. Neuroscientists say when people lose faith, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region that generates drive and vision, declines. But a small signal of hope is enough. An act of kindness, a gentle word, a moment that shows we are not abandoned. And the brain responds, reactivating dopamine like a little lamp switching on in the night. This means trust is not illusion. It is biology, the living reaction to being touched softly by belief that there is still reason to continue. Seneca once said, "As is a tale, so is life, not how long it is, but how good it is." Perhaps we do not need a long life, only a life of meaning. And trust, even a small one, is what turns ordinary days into stories worth living. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. When we trust, we do not deny change. We simply choose to view it by a light. Trust does not stop the storm, but teaches us how to stand in the rain. Maybe trust is like breath. We cannot hold it forever. We only inhale it again each time we lose it. And though we tire sometimes, the body still finds a rhythm to breathe. So too the mind. However wounded, it still seeks to trust once more. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Trust is not born from ease, but from the times we thought we could not and yet continued." Trust is the quietest among strength, not as loud as hope, not as fierce as passion. Trust is the heart's silence saying, "Whatever happens, I still choose to live well." Perhaps you have lost trust before, in others, in the future, or in yourself. But the truth is, trust never truly disappears. It only returns to silence, waiting for you to call its name. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Sometimes trust is simply choosing another perspective. Instead of "life is against me," we say, "Life is teaching me to be stronger." Trust does not have to be large. Sometimes it is only believing that every night will eventually have a dawn, and perhaps that is enough. Seneca once said, "He who has great hopes has great sorrows, but he who has quiet hopes, peace." Maybe the most beautiful trust is the quiet kind. It does not promise. It simply lights each day gently, because after all, trust is not something we possess, but something we choose to nurture. And when we keep nurturing it, even with one breath, it will sprout again. In the palm, in the ordinary heartbeats of being human. There comes a moment in life when we stop searching for someone else to trust. Not because we have lost faith in others, but because we realize no one can keep the light in our heart except ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." We once handed our happiness over to what others said, and when they fell silent, we thought we had vanished too. But happiness does not live in others' opinions. It lives in how we speak to ourselves each day. There is an unseen kind of strength, the strength of the person who still stands up when there is no one beside them. Belief in yourself does not come from success, but from the failures you would not let defeat you. It comes from every morning you open your eyes and though the heart still aches, you choose to keep living kindly. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And the bravest thing is to trust yourself, even when no one else does. Neuroscientists say, each time we tell ourselves "I can," the brain releases dopamine and endorphins, two hormones that make the body feel light, bright, and able. Trust is not only spiritual, it is the biological language of life. The body responds to every small belief we plant each day. When we say "I can't," the brain believes it, and motivation dims. But when we say "I will try," the brain immediately lights up the movement centers. And with that alone, the world shifts. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Strength is not controlling everything, but keeping your mind bright, even when the world grows dark. No one can take that from you unless you hand it away. Seneca once wrote, "To wish to be well is a part of becoming well. Believing in yourself is not arrogance. It is an act of kindness toward the soul. For when you believe you deserve a good life, you begin to live as if it is true." Someone may ask, what does self-trust mean when I have failed so many times? The answer is, it is precisely because you have failed that you have reason to trust. If you have endured falls, you have the strength to continue. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Obstacles point the way." Each challenge is like a reversed map, showing which parts of you still need trust. Trusting yourself does not mean you will always be right. It means that even when you are wrong, you can repair it. When you break, you can heal. When you lose your way, you can find your way back. Seneca once wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Perhaps luck is the universe rewarding those who do not abandon their trust in themselves along the way. Belief in yourself does not require constant bravado. Sometimes it is the quiet whisper inside. I don't know what will happen, but I will not abandon myself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one you do not need to prove to the world that you are worthy. You only need to live as if you already know it." True trust does not demand recognition, it only needs to be kept. Seneca once wrote, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. When you trust yourself, any wind becomes favorable." You do not fear being off course, for every path you travel teaches you about yourself. And perhaps the deepest trust a human can hold is not everything will be fine, but I will be fine, no matter what happens. There is a moment after years of trying to control, to understand, to arrange everything, when we suddenly stop. And in that stopping, we realize life never needed us to steer it. It moves like a river, it is sometimes rushing, sometimes calm, yet always finding its way to the sea. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything that happens, happens as it should, and if you observe carefully, you will find this to be so." We used to label every upheaval, mistake, every loss, injustice, every parting an end. But when we look closely, we see everything has a reason. Not a reason to justify, but a reason that helps us grow. Seneca once said, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown." Perhaps the twists of life have made our roots hold deeper. We do not know our strength while the wind is mild. We only know we stand when the storm passes, and we are still standing. There is a wonder about life. It brings us where we need to be, not where we thought we wanted to go. Sometimes it takes away what we cling to make space for what we deserve. Sometimes it gives us solitude so we can relearn the sound of our own heart. And sometimes it lets us lose our bearings, so we remember that we never truly needed a map, for the way home has always lived inside us. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is trust that even when we do not understand, life understands. It knows when to stop, when to go, and when to let things fall. Psychologists call this trust surrender, a conscious yielding. When the brain ceases to force outcomes and accepts that things are unfolding as they should, the body releases oxytocin, the hormone of calm. Not because we have conquered, but because we have ceased resisting. Seneca once wrote, "To be calm is the highest achievement of the self." Perhaps trust in life does not come from hoping that things will be easier, but from knowing we will be calmer, no matter what occurs. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. The world shifts every second, and so do we. Every loss is merely another form of living. A falling leaf is not gone. It returns to the earth so that one day a new sprout may rise. Likewise, each time we fall, we return to the humblest, clearest version of ourselves. Seneca once wrote, "If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor." And perhaps living in accord with life is the only way to true richness. Not richness of having more, but richness of not needing to grasp. Trusting life does not mean believing all will be well. It means believing that even if things are not well, we will learn from them. Believing that though today rains, the sun will come again. Not because we expect it, but because that is the sky's nature. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Life is opinion. Life is not here to be fully understood, but to be experienced. Trust is the way we tell the universe, I am ready to go with you, even when the road winds and the nigsh. Perhaps every journey leads here, not to a place, but to a state, where we stop running, stop searching, and stop needing to understand. There is no right or wrong there, no victory or defeat, nothing left to prove, only a complete peace, as if everything inside us has been gently set down." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Maybe he didn't speak of the soul as something distant, but of the inner space within us where we no longer have to strive to be anyone and can simply be. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is when every sound becomes kind. The heartbeat is no longer hurried, the wind outside no longer stirs restlessly, and even our breath seems to find its old earthbound rhythm again. Seneca once said, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor." Living in harmony with nature perhaps means living in harmony with the breath of calm. Nature is not hurried, and it is never late. Night does not compete with day for light. Water does not quarrel with earth. And when humans learn to be still, they understand there is nothing left to prove. Neuroscientists call this state restorative silence. When the brain is no longer busy processing information, brain waves shift toward alpha and theta, stress hormones withdraw, and the body begins to heal itself. No effort is required. No forced mindfulness is needed, only non-interference. Like when we stop stirring, the pond's surface stills. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." Silence does not mean avoiding the waves. It means standing amid them without being moved. Not because we are rigid, but because we are at ease. Perhaps the first silence doesn't come from outside, but from a moment within us, when we stop reacting to the world. We simply observe, simply feel, and allow things to be themselves. When we stop wanting to change the current naturally softens. Seneca once wrote, "Begin at once to live and count each day as a separate life." Maybe true living begins the moment we learn to stop. When we are no longer pushed by memory, no longer pulled by the future, but fully present in this moment with every breath. Silence does not come from escaping the world, but from learning to be still inside it. Among streets and people, among plans, deadlines, and waiting, we can still be at peace because peace is not outside. It is how we are present. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Perhaps the first silence is recognizing that simple truth without reason. Not because someone loves us, not because things are well, simply because we are alive. Seneca once said, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." Silence is when we stop waiting for something better in order to live. We simply live now And when we live like that, all the noises of life become background music, memories turn into color, fears soften, and every small thing becomes beautiful. Not because the world has changed, but because we no longer need it to be different. Then we no longer need to seek peace. We are peace. Not because we have everything, but because we no longer need anything more. When the body is still, the mind can still move. It flips through images, sounds, and unspoken words, as if afraid that if it stays silent too long, it will vanish. But then there is a very small moment, rare, subtle, when the mind stops. Not because we force it to stop, but because it recognizes there is nothing left to say. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own soul." And perhaps this is that place, not a specific location, but the instant when the ripples of thought subside and you find that silence is not outside, but at the center of every idea. Neuroscientists call this transient hypofrontality a temporary softening of the prefrontal cortex, the area that handles reasoning and language. No analysis, no story, only experience. Like watching a sunset and, for a few seconds, forgetting who you are, only the light remains, melting into you. Seneca once said, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." But when the mind is at rest, it is neither in the future nor trapped in the past. It simply is present. And in presence, suffering cannot abide. Pain exists only when we resist what is. When we stop resisting, even pain softens. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When the mind is quiet, the soul returns to its original hue, clear, light, and bright, not stained by anger, fear, or calculation, only the gentle light of being. There is no need to clear the mind, no need to push thoughts away. Thoughts are not wrong. They are like clouds crossing the sky. When we chase them, they form a storm. When we simply watch, they dissolve. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." And perhaps, when the mind is truly still, we do not merely enjoy the present, we become the present. No longer I am living, only living. Meditation masters call that moment no mind, not the absence of thought, but the absence of identification with thought. No I am thinking, only the flowing awareness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it. And when the mind is quiet, all judgments fall away. No right or wrong, no shoulds. Only the naked fact of what is diki, and you behold it. In that silence there are no names. No boundary between you and the world. You are no longer observer. You are part of all that exists. No inside and no outside. No I, no other. Only a single stream of being, soft as wind, vast as the sea. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And perhaps true freedom is the quiet of the mind, not dragged by memory, not pushed by fear, not imprisoned by another's words, just still and at ease. Then every breath becomes a little universe. Each passing minute becomes eternity, and you understand there is nowhere else to go, for you are home. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them." And in that quiet, you see, every star, every wind, every wave, every life moves to the same rhythm. No before, no after, no loss, no gain. Only the flow of life itself. When the mind is still, you need not understand the universe, for in that moment you are the universe understanding itself. When the mind is quiet, the body relaxed, and time loses meaning, we touch the final remaining thing, the soul. Not the religious soul, but the truest essence of ourselves, that which time cannot fade, which memory does not pull back, and which fear cannot cloud. That part is always here. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up if you just dig. And when we dig deep enough past fear, memory, thought, and seeking, we meet the deep water. No one needs to pour into it. No one needs to teach it. It is there, and it keeps flowing inside us even when we forget." Seneca once said to be calm is the highest achievement of the self. Perhaps this is that summit, not climbing up, but falling down and lying still, falling into yourself, into lightness, into a place where there is no longer any need to become. In the silence of the soul, every I dissolves. There is no one left to forgive, for nothing was truly wrong. There is no one to blame, for every event was necessary. All the noises that once crowded your heart now reduced to a single breath, long, gentle, and perfectly round like a full moon. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "All that you see will soon perish. Think of how many before you have witnessed the same, but instead of fear, that truth now soothes. For when we know everything flows away, we stop clutching. When we know that all will pass, we cease to fear loss. And when we stop fearing loss, well, we have everything." Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Now we understand it is not life that exhausts us, but the restless thoughts that would not settle. And now they are still. The silence of the soul is not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace, a peace without conditions, not dependent on another person, not tied to a place, not born of outcomes. It simply is. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change, life is opinion, and the soul aligned with the universe no longer asks, 'Why did this happen?' It only smiles softly and says, 'Because it needed to.'" Night lightens. The wind stills. The moon drapes a soft veil over the last thought within you. And you, who once ran to find peace everywhere, now simply sit, no longer seeking, just here. Here is enough. Seneca once wrote, "Begin at once to live, not tomorrow." Not when everything is perfect. But now, in this silence, in this breath, in the very moment you hear and know, you are living. And perhaps that is the only lesson life ever intended to teach, that peace is not the journey's end, but the journey itself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. If you wake tomorrow morning, remember, being alive is already a gift, and every peaceful sleep is a small thank you returned to life." Now, let the night close. No need to force sleep. No need to force stillness. Just let yourself drift. The body will know how to come home. The mind will find its rest, and the soul will lull itself to sleep. Lucid dream, sleep and science. Stories, where every story leads back to one truth, that within this vast universe, you are not lost. You are simply coming home. Good night, gentle soul of tonight.